Hey everyone, get ready for a deep dive into the future of work. In today's episode, we're exploring the transformative power of virtual office platforms and how they're reshaping the way teams collaborate and boost productivity. So if you're interested in that, stick around as we uncover key insights and practical tips that you can apply to redefine the rules of work in your organization. But first, intro. Hey everyone, it's Zach Wright. Welcome back to Untangled Vines, where we dive into the evolving world of work. Today, our focus is on an essential aspect of the modern workplace, and that's building a virtual office to amplify collaboration and productivity. In this transition to remote and hybrid work, a robust virtual office platform is a strategic asset for organizations. In our opinion, it's not just a software. It's not just a way to collaborate or communicate or connect or all of the benefits that I just mentioned. It's a strategic advantage because whenever you have a virtual office platform like we're building at Grapevine, you no longer have the risk of the interruption like we had with the pandemic, right? You're going to have a virtual central hub, a virtual knowledge management system, a virtual office that everything gets done in. So if you think about this, hopefully this doesn't happen, but if we experience another pandemic and something happens like we experienced in 2020, you will no longer have the fear of what is going to happen, right? With my business, with my employees. Now you have everything in one location, no matter if you're in the office, if you're hybrid, or if you're 100% remote, right? So we're going to explore the potential of Grapevine Software and how it can redefine the dynamics of your working environment. And don't worry, we're not just going to talk about Grapevine. We're also going to give some insights on the market research that we've been able to conduct and learn as we started to build Grapevine and get to this point of where we're almost ready to launch the MVP. So I'm going to cover this in 4 different sections. First, we're going to be talking about understanding the virtual office landscape. Second, we're going to be talking about the key features of the virtual office platform. And then we're going to be talking about fostering collaboration and communication. And then lastly, we'll talk about boosting productivity. And some of these will probably be intertwined with one another. But let's go ahead and get started with section 1, understanding the virtual office landscape. First, let's understand the fundamental concept of a virtual office and why it's critical and crucial. So whenever we were thinking about the type of software that we wanted to build, I started thinking about the time and experience that I've had working 100% remote over the past 4+ years. In addition, the things that I even witness in the office, and how can we put that into our software to solve the problems that we're seeing. So one of the biggest problems that I experience personally as an employee, as someone who was on the leadership team, and as somebody who was a manager managing other people, was knowledge management became chaotic, right? Whenever someone would come into the organization, they would ask questions about where is this, and you would have to go through different levels to get to the actual document that was the most updated. Or a lot of times people wouldn't ask, and then they would search something like Google Drive or SharePoint and find outdated material and content. And they started using that. Now, for example, a salesperson is talking to a prospect, delivering something that we did in 2015, And now it's 2023. We don't do that anymore, but they sell them on that, right? So now you have a conflict between what you told the customer and what you plan on delivering them. And that just doesn't end well. um, and so that's one of the examples is knowledge management. It's a big issue where we still haven't defined the appropriate way to do this. Now in Grapevine, we're going to have a unique approach to this. And the way that we're going to be solving for this in our virtual office platform is having a chat functionality connected to an intranet that also formulates a repository where you can see in an organized fashion of your documents. Is it PowerPoint? Is it a PDF? Is it a link? Is it whatever the case is? You will be able to have that chat feature, upload it into Grapevine, and then find it, search and find it, and share it all within one platform. So if you think about what we're doing here, we're combining something like a Slack, something like a SharePoint, something like a Google Drive, something like an intranet company out there that you might be familiar with. And then we're piecing it together in a way that matches remote and hybrid environments specifically, right? That is in itself a unique defier for us, is that we are specifically building our virtual office platform with the remote and hybrid organizations in mind, not just the organization, but also the employee. So that's one of the things. So knowledge management, being able to have an organized knowledge base, knowledge management system. Now, the other part is communication and collaboration, right? Since we are encouraging organizations to use Grapevine and then have one central location for communication and different types of communications. For example, we have an executive news feed in our intranet. And what that really means is that anybody who has the right permissions, so CEO, C-suite, head of an organization or head of a department, HR, product, whoever it is that makes sense in your organization to have access to the executive newsfeed, they can post updates in that newsfeed, and only they can post them, but everybody else can like, communicate, share, and message the person who posted it. But the reason that we're doing it that way is because we want to cut through the noise. We want to make sure that the most important updates are coming directly into that executive newsfeed, and that everybody gets notified whenever they're posted. People can comment, so on and so forth. But you're breaking through that noise, where in the previous organization that I worked at, we'd use a Slack channel. And the problem was anybody could post in that Slack channel, and it would just become so cluttered. And due to all the notifications in Slack, and this is no disrespect to Slack, this is just my experience, due to all those notifications, I would overlook it. A lot of people would overlook it. The people who were trying to send out the updates had to over communicate, which is never a bad thing, but they had to take time out of their day and post it again, or send people back to that message so they could interact with it, right? And so that's what we're also doing here, is the communication piece is specifically having different areas for others to communicate. Now, we also have a chat function, as I mentioned, where anybody can contact anybody. We have a community functionality, which is like your internal social network. So that becomes the entire company news feed. The way that you communicate either your personal or professional life, you share achievements. It's a way to build culture remotely without bombarding everybody, right? And so you'll have the chat where you can have real time, and then you'll have the community where you can post almost like a social media approach to posting and connecting as a community. So those are a couple of things, and that's only touching on the bare minimum of the virtual office platform. But the reason that we're talking about this is because the virtual office is more than a trend, right? in our opinion, it's becoming a necessity for the modern workplace. As I mentioned, we talked about business continuity in a sense, but whenever you think about a virtual office, you no longer are confined by physical spaces. Now, this doesn't mean that you never have to have an office, or you never come into an office, or you never meet up in person. But what it does is it de-risk the ability, or de-risk the potential harms of having everything located in one area that people have to congregate in, right? So if I'm in North Carolina, my coworker is in San Diego, California, and then our development team is in Pakistan, and then our other person is in the United Kingdom. It no longer matters if they can get access to our office, because our office is virtual. Everything that we do, communicate, collaborate, connect, store documents, and all those types of things are going to be found in this one location. So we are really replacing the need for a physical office, because everything is going to be organized. And if you think about this, it's I almost ask myself, why has nobody built this before? And I think it is a lot, because, and maybe that's the reason, is because we're not just taking the intranet, we're not just taking a digital workspace, we're not just taking an internal social media, social network approach, or a department portal. We're combining all of these, and then we're connecting it through each other. So our intranet is connected to social media, is connected to company updates, is connected to the executive news feed. Our community is connected to your employee profile. Our employee directory is connected to your employee profile information. So you can search not only by department or name, but also by skill and previous experience. Just imagine the type of collaboration that you can create if you're able to search something. Like, let's say that I don't have agile experience, for example, and I am about to take on a project that requires agile methodology. Well, I can go to the employee directory and type in agile, and as long as somebody has that in their employee profile, and it's like a Facebook profile, if you want to get a visualization of it in your head, if I do that, then I can come up with a list of everybody in the organization and talk to them about best practices, or talk to them about maybe a template that they use on a daily basis, or maybe I need to get access to a tool that they have that I don't have, that I need to have. Right? There's so much collaboration that you can build off of having a strong virtual office platform, not just an intranet, not just a community, not just one or the other, not just chat, right? You need when I say you need, remote and hybrid organizations need this conduit, so to speak, as my founding advisor would say it, this conduit of plugging in everything and connecting everyone in that environment without the physical office needed, right? Okay. And I've kind of already gone into features and fostering collaboration and communication, but I'm going to go back up to just one bullet point that I wanted to make sure that I call out. Research indicates that organizations leveraging a virtual office witnesses improvements in overall productivity. And it goes back to the knowledge management piece. And if I want to get granular here, the knowledge management piece, the importance of a knowledge management piece or document management, the combination of all these things and being able to do it in one tool, one software under one user interface, it allows employees to not only gain access to the right things, but let's say, again, for the example, our development team is based out of Pakistan. They're about 9 hours ahead of us in North Carolina. And so when they get access to Grapevine and we have all these documents in there, instead of sending me a message on WhatsApp, they're going to be able to search Grapevine in its entirety through Elasticsearch and not only search the keywords that they're looking for, but also search in an organized fashion, where if they search for getting started document for onboarding, then it will come up with a PDF version, maybe a version of the Word document, or whatever, Canva, whatever the place or how we created it and stored it. They'll be able to see that, okay, this is the PDF version, this is the PowerPoint version, this is the onboarding kickoff presentation, this is XYZ. They'll be able to choose, not only choose, but there should be a tag that says most updated or the master copy. So as I mentioned before with SharePoint, if you search SharePoint, you can see that it was updated in 2023, but you don't actually see that this is the most current version, right? And so it's just those little things. And then also we're going to have AI included that can help support you through recommendations based off of what you're looking for and all that kind of stuff. But like, that is how productivity is improved using a virtual office platform. It's the combination of not needing someone else to find what you're looking for, but also having them right at the tip of your fingers if you need to send them a chat or an email or whatever the case is, right? You can do all those things in Grapevine. Okay, so even though I've already talked a lot about some of the features, I'm going to talk about now the specific features that we're going to have in our MVP, and then some of the ones that we'll have later on. And then I'll do videos on those, diving in deep whenever we get those ready to release. So the key features, this is section 2, key features of Virtual Office Platform. So we're going to dive into the core features that distinguish our Virtual Office Platform. These platforms, including obviously ours, will go beyond being mere tools. As I mentioned before, they're going to act as holistic solutions for enhancing team workflows. And we've seen in studies that organizations experience improved collaboration when adopting comprehensive virtual office platforms. So with all those bullet points out of the way, let's dive into, on a high level basis, what we're going to be offering. So in our intranet, we've already talked about the executive newsfeed. So we have that. Then we also have a way to deliver company announcements, industry announcements, or just announcements in general to keep everybody aligned and connected in a virtual setting. So whenever you go into the announcements section, you'll be able to choose a company update. You'll have a title, you'll have a description, and you can add links in there. And then you'll also have your image that you upload. And what this will do is, once you upload that, it will come up across the announcements page or the recent updates on the internet, and everybody in the organization will get a notification. This is also solving for that problem of having a channel in Slack that often gets overlooked, right? And so that is one of the features. Just a simple feature, but it's very important because it keeps everybody updated. It keeps everybody understanding what's going on in the company. Next, below that, we have company events, upcoming company events. Now, again, I'm solving for the issues that we had in the previous company that I worked with. And so with the upcoming company events, it's like setting a calendar event. You'll go in there, you'll choose the date, you'll add a title, and then you'll put the meeting information in there. And so whenever you're doing this, you'll be able to directly click on that, or it'll have a notification that pops out. And whenever that pops out, you can click on it and view it, or you can click on it and join right away. The goal with this is, for example, as I was getting to before I got interrupted by myself, the last company I worked for, we would send out a calendar invite saying there's an all hands company meeting on this day. And whenever the time would come, we would have to give another Slack update, and maybe an email update. Then the day of, we would put a link into Slack or send it out in the in an email, and people would click on it and then they would join. But just think how simplified it is, because you'll be able to have reminders too. And so you'll add the company event, you'll put the link in there, and then you can choose when you want to schedule reminders. And you won't have to be updated or do the updating manually, right? So that's another feature. Another feature is connect with your coworkers. So whenever you connect with your coworkers, you're going to get notified whenever they post something on the community. Um, or if they are your manager, you'll get updated on every single thing that your manager updates, whether it's in the intranet, the community, or your department portal, which will be in MVP number 3. And so that's the homepage of the intranet. Then you also have your About Us page. So you think about somebody onboarding or just forgetting over time what the company mission, the vision, the core values are, and why. What is the purpose of your organization? You think about that, right? Somebody onboarding can go to that and get intrigued and even more invested in the company. Because sometimes whenever you get hired, you don't actually start until a month later, and you've already forgot about the mission and the vision of the company or the core values. Bring that to light as they explore and they onboard. Now, the other section, if we move down, and this is on, you have a top bar and a sidebar. So this is on the sidebar. The next thing is your employee directory. We touched on that, so I won't go into more detail there. But as we continue, you'll have your document repository. So anything that's uploaded into Grapevine that is public will be able to be searched through that. And one thing that I didn't mention is Grapevine is going to be white labeled. So you'll be able to upload your logo. You'll be able to upload your brand colors and your font colors and your font style and make Grapevine look like your personal intranet, your personal virtual office, right? And so the other thing, just a quick call out there, because that's very important. You want to have something where customers can really buy into it and it becomes their own. It's their central location. It's their virtual headquarters. It's their virtual office. They should be able to take pride in it. Now, the other thing that would be included in the MVP number 1 is the employee profile. Now, I will talk a little bit about this one because the employee profile is different than just your typical employee profile that you might have in your HRIS tool, right? With our employee profile, you have your profile image, you have your banner image, just like a LinkedIn or a Facebook style approach there. But then underneath it, you have a little bit of a bio description. You can select if you're in the office or you're out of the office, like on PTO or whatever the case is, and people will see that and they'll know whether or not to reach out to you, because it'll also be a status on your chat and all that kind of stuff. Then if we continue to move down, you have a section where you can upload a video for your introduction video. We used to do that at our old company, and then other companies, we just have introductions as well. So you can feel free to record a video, upload it. So again, whenever it comes to onboarding, people can get to know the people by going and exploring their employee profiles. Now, this is the part that I really like too, is the next section is where you can upload photos of you doing something outside of work. You can upload images of you and your family so people can get to know who you are outside of work. Because that's one of the biggest problems, that even though it's not necessarily like ROI focused, one of the biggest problems in my experience is understanding who someone is in a remote environment outside of the work that they do and the work that you work with them on, right? So if I can upload a photo of me and my wife and my dog, and then like just this past weekend, we went to Boston for our 2-year wedding anniversary. If I could upload some images to that, people would get to know me better, right? And when you know someone better, you're less likely to treat them badly, right? And like if I think about this, I think some people try to keep a distance from other people, especially like manager employee, because they don't want to cross the lines, not in a sexual manner, but like cross the lines and becoming friends. But like if you think about this, whenever you talk to your friends, you're able to talk to your friends on a realistic, holistic way, right? It's kind of like having a brother or a sister. Over time, you are able to speak and communicate to that person on a true basis, right? And so that's what we're trying to do, is we're trying to show the professional side, but also bring a portion of the personal side here so everybody understands other people better, right? That's how we're in one of the attempts of how we're going to make the workplace better. And so as we continue, you have a section for like the type of notifications that you want to receive, so you're not bombarded with notifications, but also so you don't miss anything either. On the other side, because there's two columns here, once you get past the heading, is on the left side, you have who you report to, what your start date is, what is your birth date, which can be optional, but there's a section in there where you can see that it's somebody's birthday and give them a happy birthday. That can go in the community, whatever. You can send them a personal chat, whatever the case is. Then as we continue, you have your hobbies. Like, what type of hobbies do you like to do? And in the community, you can also build groups out. And so if you build out a group for skydiving or a group for hiking, so then you can communicate on a level that's outside of work, again fostering those relationships to build trust, to increase collaboration, and overall treat people better. Then as we continue, this is going to kind of be like the LinkedIn portion of your previous experience and then your current experience. So eventually we want to get to where you can like upload this with your resume or your LinkedIn profile, but right now you'll have to enter it manually. But you can add your previous roles. So for example, my previous role was strategy staff executive, director of sales operations and sales engineering. It's a mouthful, but in there I would be able to talk about how I ran the OKR program. That might not be my current job title now or my job responsibility, but as I mentioned, this experience that goes into the employee profile now becomes available to search in the employee directory, fostering better collaboration among everybody, and getting to know people on a professional level and a personal level. So that's also going to be in the MVP. Then we talk about chat. Chat is going to live within the Grapevine platform itself. Eventually, we'll have a desktop application as well where you can separate it. But the cool thing about this, as I mentioned earlier, is that if you go to the document repository in the intranet, you can drag the document that you want to into a chat and send it to that person or that group that you're trying to share with. Or you can upload a document and then that is stored into the intranet or the knowledge management piece of it, the document repository. And eventually in MVP number 2, we'll have My Office, which is your digital workspace, where when somebody sends you a message, you can store it to My Documents or My Office. And we'll talk about that later because that won't be in MVP number 2. Now, I've already talked about the community and certain things that you can do there, but basically that's like your news feed that you see on like a LinkedIn or a Facebook. It's a way to communicate and foster culture, but also ask questions and get answers there too. And so those are the top features of our virtual office. Again, we're combining a lot of things that are built separately and putting them all into one, where it makes it less daunting on the employee to go from this app that does performance management to this app that does internet communication and document management to this app that does only knowledge management to this app that does 101s and all that kind of stuff. All that will be in our virtual office platform. Okay, so this is section 3. That was section 2, key features of virtual office platform. Also talked about them in section 1 too. But I'm going to try to keep this one a little bit shorter so we can keep this episode shorter. But the heart of the matter is that these platforms foster collaboration and communication. The virtual office solution is really a bridge that connects teams seamlessly and allows communication to feel natural in especially in Grapevine, to declutter the way that a lot of organizations are operating now, which is tons of channels in a chat feature, tons of direct messages in a chat feature, not being able to search and find easily in a certain platform, right? And this isn't just the one that you're thinking about, and I mentioned it before. It's all these different things. I haven't experienced it. SharePoint is great to a certain extent. Slack is great to a certain extent. Everything is great to a certain extent. How can we fill the gap? And that's what we're trying to do. And just own this. Like, research suggests that teams utilizing collaborative platforms are more likely to stay focused and on task, because that's a big thing, right? Whenever we talk about remote and hybrid organizations, what we're seeing is that managers are concerned about people doing work. Are they waking up and actually doing the work? And to me, the answer here is performance management. It's not a remote, a hybrid, in office conversation. It's, do you have the right frameworks? Do you have the right tools in place to allow employees to be flexible? Because it's like Maslow's hierarchy of needs, right? Only can we talk about if the office is more productive, or hybrid is more productive, or remote is more productive, when we have the right infrastructure and the right frameworks in place. Because if we don't have those, then we are missing a level of needs found in the hierarchy of work, right? In my opinion, right? And so whenever we think about that, what we need to do is have an infrastructure that allows you to do performance management and track outcomes rather than hours worked, right? I've done a couple of podcasts on this, and where I mentioned it. I've done a couple of blog posts on this where I've mentioned it. But the 9 to 5 is dead, and it doesn't give me pleasure in saying that, because I still try to sign on by 9. I don't finish by 5. That's just my prerogative. And building a company, anybody out there who's doing that understands why. But the thing is that I am focused on outcomes, right? Like, again, my development team the majority is based out of Pakistan. I can't micromanage them, right? I have to set a clear path and direction and clear vision of what we're trying to accomplish at Grapevine from a product perspective, for them to continue to work on that. Now, it does also maybe take a certain type of person who is self-motivated to a certain extent, but even so, with the right type of infrastructure, you'll be able to collaborate and measure their performance and provide coaching in real time. To me, it's a mixture of the infrastructure of the software, the leadership, and the intentionality of the company and what they're trying to drive based off of that, right? And that kind of segues perfectly into section 4, our last section, which is boosting productivity. So we're going to talk about that. Virtual office platforms like Grapevine are designed to elevate productivity through integrated task management, goal tracking, analytics. And so we are going to have a company performance tab, and we often forget, we as an I often forget to talk about, we are going to have analytics. So you'll be able to see how productive a person is, how engaged a person is, based off of how you set up your performance management systems, right? So we'll have a place for KPIs and OKRs. We're going to keep it very simple. I think a lot of companies out there who do this type of stuff make it very, very, very difficult to navigate, to manage, to find, to update, all these things, right? We're going to keep it very, very, very simple whenever it comes to this type of approach. And we're also going to leverage AI. For example, if you have an OKR in your organization and somebody else has a similar goal to you, AI should be able to work in on the back end and say, Zach has a similar goal with objective 1 compared to yours, employee X. where you have objective 3 and then key results here. And so like you should be able to use AI to say, okay, you guys are or people are working on a similar goal. You should communicate so you're not doing duplicated work, and so you can collaborate and get it done faster, right? Just think about all that. If you can combine that into one platform like Grapevine, just imagine the type of productivity that you'll be able to have. And not just productivity, you'll break down silos, you'll have a better communication, you'll have better clarity, and so on, right? If you can't tell, I'm passionate about this. Maybe that's why I'm building an entire company, software company around it. Okay, last thing, studies show that organizations using integrated productivity tools experience a notable increase in overall efficiency. I think that is kind of explanatory, but I'll just call out that whenever you create an organization and a culture that focuses on productivity by working together, by being aligned, and by having a clear path, you are going to, no matter what, whether you use a virtual office platform or not, you're going to see overall efficiency and effectiveness increase, which ultimately goes to productivity. So that's the end of our section. So in summary, virtual office platforms redefine the rules of work, in our opinion, by improving collaboration, communication, and productivity. They are more than tools. They are strategic assets of the modern organization, navigating dynamic work environments. So if you're interested in what was talked about in this episode and learning more about Grapevine, we are getting very, very close to launching our MVP, and we are still looking for beta users. So we want to get about 3 to 5 beta users. Right now we have 3, potentially 2 more, but if you're a good fit, we will take you in. So if you're interested in being a part of our beta program, early adopters, reach out to us, schedule a meeting. It doesn't have to go anywhere. You can just learn about Grapevine. We can stay connected for whenever it might be the right time. But you'll see a link in the description where you can set up a call. It should say let's connect, and then it will take you to a scheduling page, as well as a video that you can watch a little bit more about Grapevine. So thanks so much for watching this episode. I hope that you found it interesting, and I hope that you found what we're talking about to resonate with some of the problems that you've experienced in your organization. And if you are looking to solve those problems, Grapevine Software could be the solution for you. Thanks so much for watching Untangled Vines, redefining the rules of work, and we'll see you on the next episode.